fuck the normal intro. I'm just gonna get right into this. Yes, I know I already made a video like this, but I felt like it was too distracting based on all the cars swooping by or driving by in the background excessively to the point where it became distracting. So I am just gonna make this supposedly 15-minute video because this topic is driving me up the damn fucking wall. Anyways, hang on a second. You already could tell by the title, and, of course, what's on my shirt, that this is going to be about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Hear me out. I'm going to blow all your minds, but listen to this objectively true sentiment. But The Rise of Skywalker will not ruin Star Wars, no matter what the outcome of it will be. I know you idiotic toxic fans are not going to take it easy on me, but who am I to give a shit? Because there is no reasoning with stupid people. It's like yelling at a brick wall time and time and time again. What is there to reason with obstinate morons that cry for attention on the internet? Star Wars has existed for years, throughout the times it flopped in box office and the times it thrived in the box office. It is not going to ruin Star Wars. Sorry, but it doesn't matter how much of a juvenile grudge you hold against Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi or J.J. Abrams and The Force Awakens. The Rise of Skywalker won't ruin Star Wars, no matter how many plot holes you supposedly point out, or fucking wormholes, or whatever. And I know a lot of people are gonna point out the whole Lightspeed Kamikaze plot hole that ruined the lore. Hey, if you were paying attention in the whole fucking series and saga, you would know that Lightspeed ain't like dusting crops, as Han Solo would say. What's Admiral Holdo supposed to do? Launch a Death Star cannon at the First Order fleet? Wait for the transports to be all mowed down? Of course it was suitable in that particular scenario. It was the last resort. Saying the whole, why didn't the rebels go on literal suicide missions on Yavin is the most juvenile and ridiculous rhetorical question I've ever heard in my life. That's like asking why didn't the U.S. military go on literal suicide missions during Midway in 1942. Do you guys realize how ludicrous you fucking sound when you say this nonsense? You guys are literally grasping at straws, because this was literally a suitable scenario for them to lightspeed into the First Order fleet. There was nothing else left for them to do. If you don't like The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens so much, don't watch it, don't own it, and just don't include it in your headcanons, for fuck's sake. Why even go on this boycott Disney tirade in the first place? Furthermore, if you're such true fans, why are you trying to get Episode 9 to bomb so bad in the first place? At least see how this trilogy ends. I mean, my dad hated Episode 2, but you didn't see him going on juvenile tirades to boycott Episode 3. If anything, Episode 3 turned out to be the best of the prequel trilogy. Granted, I wasn't a big fan of the prequel trilogy, but I still stuck with Star Wars through thick and thin. Star Wars isn't fucking dead just because one or two movies you hated out of the many content and material it has produced over the last several years. The prequel trilogy, which rubbed me the wrong way for quite some time, never hindered Star Wars financially. And here it is, still thriving to this day in 2019. Get over it. They're just movies, for fuck's sake. And if they bother you so much, oh well, the world still turns. If your life is really dependent on a Star Wars movie being good, and if your anxiety really flares up just because of the quality of a Star Wars film doesn't live up to your expectations, then I gotta say, you need help. You really do need help, because I'm at loss of words here, because a fan base is so fucking stupid that they leave you almost nearly speechless while you're at 5 minutes of the video. I mean, yeah, you could feel cheated that you paid roughly $15 for a ticket, but hey, you didn't lose an arm, you didn't lose a leg. Furthermore, you didn't get diagnosed with any chronic disease after feeling disappointed with a movie. They are just movies, and that is that. Also, if you love the other material produced by Disney, well, not produced by Disney, but published by Disney so much, such as Rebels, or Mandalorian, or the revived Clone Wars series, why not just go to that content and stay the fuck away from the sequel trilogy? We get it. You don't have to shove your juvenile tirades down our fucking throats. You see, having hatred towards Star Wars movies is exactly like having a penis. It's okay to have one, just do not shove it down anyone's throat. And no one else wants to hear about it so much. You guys are really killing me. So seriously, if The Rise of Skywalker doesn't live up to your expectations, don't watch it, don't own it, don't go to it, and just wipe it away from your memory, for fuck's sake. Besides, if you're gonna make a desperate amount of excuses to hate The Last Jedi that don't warrant hatred in the first place, or The Force Awakens for that matter, let alone barely pay a modicum of attention to the details of every single Star Wars film that connects each and every supposed plot hole you make complaint of, why even call yourself a super fan of Star Wars in the first place? Why not just go watch Michael Bay's Transformers? Or if you really care so much about Luke Skywalker doing a lot of unnecessary Force Unleashed crap. Because, if anything, that sounds like a far worse edition of Star Wars The Last Jedi. The Rise of Skywalker will not ruin your childhood, will not ruin Star Wars. Besides, when you say that your childhood was ruined all over one Star Wars movie in your adulthood, saying that your childhood was ruined implies that you still have a childhood ongoing. Until you actually show me proof that The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens supposedly made special additions to the original trilogy, I have no reason to take you seriously as Star Wars fans. Sorry, but also to try and make boycott campaigns for The Rise of Skywalker to flop, that doesn't sound like you're true Star Wars fans to me. I know I hate using that argument but to try and destroy the state of Star Wars, to try and make The Rise of Skywalker fail just because your fantasy theories didn't come to life, is extremely juvenile and ridiculous. Again, and if you really disagree with me on this, then you don't have to call your Star Wars fan, and you're not. Seriously, Disney has owned Star Wars for almost a whole decade now. Move on. Get over it. We get it. You miss George Lucas, but he has made it perfectly clear that Star Wars itself would even live beyond its lifetime. There is more to Star Wars than just George Lucas himself. I love the dude for creating Star Wars in the first place, but he clearly said it himself. It was time for him to move on. He made it perfectly clear that he doesn't want to do any more Star Wars movies. Besides, he's already co-writing it for J.J. Abrams, so why are you guys still lighting fuses in your tampons about it? Ugh, God, I feel like I lost 99% of my brain cells and took 30 years off my life debating with these unfathomably dense Star Wars fans. Well, not Star Wars fans, toxic brain-dead Star Wars boomers. I just want to I just want to surgically operate on their brain just to see how tiny it is. Like, Jesus Christ, you people. If you hurl your tomatoes at this movie after you've seen it, after you made so many Facebook post after Facebook post, tweet after tweet about how much you're not going to see it and how much you're not going to give them your money, then sorry, you're not a true Star Wars fan. You don't qualify as a true Star Wars fan. Unless if The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi at the very least disappointed you, but you're still going to see The Rise of Skywalker just to, at the very least, see how this trilogy ends, then congratulations. That you actually do have credibility as a Star Wars fan. But to try and make it flop in box office is just ridiculous and complete oxymoronic to what a Star Wars fan should be. Yeah, ain't that the charm of being a part of a fan base? Toxicity after toxicity, radiating at every corner you turn. Oh, fucking oh joy. Besides, your childhood is over. Get the hell over it. It's time for the new generation of children and kids and infants or whatever to have their trilogy of their childhood. You already had the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. Let our new generation have the sequel trilogy. Your childhood is over. Get over it. Besides, your childhood can't be ruined if it's essentially over. This is your adulthood we're talking about, if you guys are at least adults, unless if there's actually teenagers watching this. If The Rise of Skywalker doesn't live up to your expectations, all well. Besides, if The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens already disappointed you enough, and already fueled your desire to harass anybody that liked it, unlike you, what are you even expecting to get out of The Rise of Skywalker if you already know that you're gonna hate it with all your heart, no matter what qualities it may provide to you? I would imagine someone who already knows damn well in their heart that they are not going to like The Rise of Skywalker wouldn't bother subjecting themselves to Star Wars. At this point, I'm convinced that the majority of people who hate the sequel trilogy and prequel trilogy are only fans of Empire Strikes Back, so why even call yourself Star Wars fans to begin with? It's pathetic. If you're really gonna boycott The Rise of Skywalker, don't call yourselves a Star Wars fan. The Rise of Skywalker will not ruin Star Wars, no matter how much you whine like a child about it. If it doesn't live up to your expectations, it doesn't live up to your expectations. Big fucking deal. Grow the fuck up. Star Wars will still live on for maybe even several centuries beyond my lifetime. even if The Rise of Skywalker doesn't have the best quality. It may be the best Star Wars movie, it may be a mediocre Star Wars movie, it may be the worst Star Wars movie ever, or whatever. I'm not holding my breath, but based on the trailers I've seen, it looks like it'll be the best of the sequel trilogy. It's always the last chapter that I always believe to be the best in the trilogies. Return of the Jedi is my favorite of the original trilogy. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite of the prequel trilogy, and maybe most likely The Rise of Skywalker will be my favorite of this trilogy. It's just that I always love the closing chapters of a lot of trilogies. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and Aliens, even though plenty of sequels existed afterwards, I just pretend they don't exist. Yada yada yada. Endgame, Avengers Endgame. The list goes on. So, bottom line, if The Rise of Skywalker wasn't good enough for you to like it, move on and turn your head to the Star Wars content that actually clicks well with you. Don't include it in your headcanon if you don't like it so much. The Rise of Skywalker will not ruin Star Wars. Whether The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi was supposedly bad or good, they are good in my opinion anyways, is highly irrelevant. Stop acting like this is such blasphemy to the world. There will always be Star Wars, and Star Wars will still be Star Wars, and Star Wars will still live on beyond centuries. Star Wars will still exist, still thrive, and still triumph in the box office, even if The Rise of Skywalker doesn't do well. And even if The Rise of Skywalker doesn't live up to your expectations. Anyways, I'm getting too long-winded, so I think I'll just end the video here to avoid any more rambling. So, space out, motherfuckers, and may the Force be with you. If you liked the Rise of Skywalker, good for you. If you didn't like it, that's too bad. I'm sorry that it didn't live up to your expectations, but just remember to be cool with other people that disagree with you about qualities of Star Wars content. Not even just Star Wars content, any content in general. Anyways, that about wraps it up. Thank you for watching. Space out.